Hello and welcome to How to Well, in case you didn't see it in the previous videos, someone finally did it. Someone finally made me put KTM on the bike. That's not the real issue with this bike, actually. The real issue with this bike is everything in front of the gas tank is not good. So when I was racing this thing at Glen Helen, I was like, why is the handling just so bad? Why is it just so freaking sloppy? And it's sloppy because in like every axis of control on the front end, it has literally tons of slop. The handlebars, as you can see there, they just move around freely in the clamps. And then watch the amount of flex that happens because of those old worn out rubber mounts. Now I'm barely putting any input here. And even if everything at the handlebars wasn't just completely sloppy, you still have this tiny front end that, like, I'm hardly putting anything into that, and it just flexes around like crazy. So in this video, I want to see what I can do to address some of that sloppiness. Some of them are obvious, like we can obviously fix the handlebars moving around in the clamps. But before we fix any of it, I want to do some A/B testing, get a good baseline of how bad it is. Then I'll do everything, and then I'll see if there's a measurable improvement, or if we can capture on camera in slow motion the difference in flex. That'll be fun. So let's see if we can do that or not. Coasting back into camp from all the way out there because the SP ran out of fuel. Unfortunately, before I set off, I realized that the petcock was stuck on reserve and there was about half a tank. And I was like, you know, whatever. I'm just gonna go out, find a route, and come back. But that took me 20 minutes, and I forgot that you only get about 40 minutes of moving at a decent pace before you're completely out of fuel. So being already at half tank and on reserve, I only had 20 minutes, but came back and I unstuck the petcock. It is still too stuck to use by hand, but with a pair of pliers, I'm able to switch it from on to off to reserve. So I'm just carrying the pair of pliers with me. I did establish a route, so now I just got to practice it until I'm consistent on it, and then I can start testing on it. All right, here it goes. This is the real deal. So I chose this short little route because when I would ride it, it would really make me feel the sloppy, springy front end control. The sensations I get from an overly flexible, loose front end are multiplied in soft terrain like this sand wash. The issues I seem to have when there's way too much slop and flex in the front end are what I call the tuck and snap and wandering. Both of these things are technically just rider error that gets highlighted to an extreme when the front end lacks rigidity. The tuck and snap is when, during a turn, the front wheel gets forced over to the inside of the turn because the ground contacts a bit of the leading edge of the wheel. The more it gets forced over, more of the leading forward edge of the wheel contacts the ground, therefore more force is put into trying to tuck the wheel down in a vicious cycle. It happens in a split second. It's the same thing as when you tuck the front end on any other bike, except on a bike with extreme amounts of flexibility between the front wheel and the handlebars. In that first moment of the wheel getting forced over to the inside, the wheel doesn't take the handlebars with it. So you lose that tiny, crucial moment to be able to hold the front end how you want it, even though your natural reaction is trying to do so. When the wheel finally does start to take the handlebars with it, you're naturally already increasing the amount that you're fighting the situation with handlebar input because your initial reaction didn't do anything, and then two things happen. The front wheel being over tucked puts extra weight into the front wheel, which quickly collapses the forks. The collapsed forks straighten up very suddenly because they've effectively become shorter and less flexible, and then suddenly all that input you were putting into the bars is finally translated into front wheel movement, and the front wheel snaps back violently. Again, it's the same front wheel tuck that happens on any bike, just multiplied a lot when it does happen, and it happens way more often, so it's really challenging to ride with a bike that does this. Wandering is when the front wheel takes the path of least resistance instead of cooperating with your handlebar inputs. This just disturbs your roll balance when the front wheel doesn't track how you expected it to, which typically stands you up in a turn, because you'll either slightly under-roll, which stands you upright, or you'll over-roll, which causes you to emergency correct or dab your foot and get stood upright. Again, this same error happens on all bikes. It's just intensified by what I can only describe as input/feedback lag time on a flimsy front end. Hello and welcome to how to So addressing the handlebars moving in the clamps issue will be really easy because they're just not put together correctly. This key switch holder is not supposed to be sandwiched between the clamps. Check out the underlying carnage from having those put together incorrectly. I want to see how the rubber bushings for these clamps are shaped to see if I can just get rid of them or replace them with something solid, or what I have to do to make that situation better. So I'm gonna go ahead and take those apart. While I'm at it, I might as well get rid of the freaking gauge cluster. It doesn't work at all, doesn't do anything, so might as well get rid of it. So what I found with these rubber bushings is that you can only tighten them so far before it stops taking up any slop. It'll, like, the nut will be on there just jammed super tight, and it won't do anything more to take up any of that slop. And the reason for that is because inside those rubber bushings there is a metal bushing that acts as a spacer to prevent you from doing damage to this one. But I shortened that up, and I don't care if I'm gonna do damage to the bottom one. I'm gonna tighten these suckers super tight so that there's less play. On the camera's right side is the modified one, and on the camera's left side is the stock one. The modified one barely moves in comparison to the stock one. This one is, of course, rusted together. So maybe if I torch the crap out of it, it'll come apart. Torching it did not work, so I decided to painstakingly cut around the bushing. That plan somehow managed to work. I am surprised. Okay, so I got the bars and clamps back on, and I'll be darned, you can move the bars at a standstill and they don't flex all over the place like they did before. Another thing I'd like to do right now is just remove some of the useless weight, especially some of the weight that is contributing to the sensation of loosey-goosey feeling in the front end. Not gonna need those reflector things. The turn signals didn't work anyway. Yep, okay, there's one. There's the other one. I hope that doesn't disable any of my other lighting. That horn doesn't even work either. That's pretty hefty. That's a good chunk of weight. I'm not a big fan of having a speedometer cable when I don't even have a speedometer anymore, so yeah, I think it just unscrews. There it is. There's one little drive cable hanging out right there, and that is the very old school tachometer drive cable driven off the camshaft. It just unscrews by hand. I'm gonna try to plug that. Well, this is the solution to plugging everything. Boom, just like that. We have ourselves a plug. So it's pretty much good, and to finish it off, I put a ODI lock-on grip on the throttle side to match the clutch side. All right, hopping on the new and improved SP500. Oh, it just feels so much more solid already. I haven't even moved yet. Just the littlest things done to it, and it is already way better. It feels way less squirrely. Now, you better watch out. Coming to a racetrack near you. Okay, it's obviously still like a piece of junk, but you know, I'm starting to see the potential. That would be sick. That'll be so cool. Just like a total, extremely low budget hobo build, and have it actually be okay. That'll be sick. Okay, I'm editing right now, and this is just too good. Watch the way this thing just oscillates. Oh my god, what is that? Bro, land a jump and then just hang on, because you're gonna oscillate. Oh my god. Alright, this is the one go for time.